What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to That's Delivered podcast. I'm your host, Trucking Ray, and today we got another important conversation as a part of Women in Trucking series. This month, we're going to be doing a special series featuring women that are connected with, working alongside with African American Women in Trucking Association, also known as AAWTA. The purpose of this series is to highlight voices, experiences, and journeys of women in trucking, while also encouraging more women to, especially African American women, to consider opportunities in transportation and trucking. Today, I'm joined by Claudette Hart. Claudette is an experienced truck driver in the trucking industry and is also involved with ATA. The organization is focused on supporting and uplifting and creating opportunities for Black women in transportation. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about, trucking, safety, wellness, and challenges that women face out there on the road. The importance of community and mentorship within the industry. Claudette, we want to thank you for coming on the show. Claudette, how you doing? Thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Man, it's a real honor to have someone like yourself come on the show and tell us about yourself and how you got into trucking. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it would be a long story, but I'll try to keep it as as short as possible. I actually went to trucking school in 2019. I got my CDL license from a third party, actually, Advantage School of Trucking out in Joliet, Illinois. And then from there, the journey began. The first company that I actually worked for in January of 2020 was Dot Foods. So I'm pretty much familiar with driving and refrigerated freight. That's a short synopsis of pretty much how my career got started uh, within the
Man,
trucking industry.
so drive in, and you're doing a refrigeration. That's hard work. And you got the two wheeler or carts that you're using.
You know what? I actually I've only done well, I've done touch and no touch freight. So with Dot Foods, it was pretty much you could be a touch driver or no touch. I was no touch, so I pretty much just bumped dots. But during my training phase, the trainer that I went with, he actually unloaded his trailers. So you know how they pay you per mile and by the piece.
Yeah.
So once I got on my own, I just pretty much bumped docs. So Dot Foods, which I still love Dot Foods to this day, they were mainly like where you go from DC to DC, and then they had their own customer base. So they had probably about now they probably have about 13 facilities. So if you were a no touch driver, you would just go from DC to DC, and then they would send you to whatever customer base that they would have, which would most likely be like we're talking about dry food, something like a Skinny Pop, or if you're talking about refrigeration, Cisco Food, since everybody knows us.
Yeah. What originally attracted you to the trucking industry?
You know what? Yeah, but prior to this, I was doing I was doing independent contracting work. So and I did have a cargo van or two at one time. And then when that, pretty much when the bottom fell out, I just was like, coming from corrections, which provided a stability career, I was like, you know what, if I did do something else career wise, it would be something that, you know, I could have forever. Like you never, they're always going to need truck drivers. So from there, I was like, you know what? I'll get my license. That way, if anything were to happen, I would always be able to drive. So that's
Yeah,
pretty much how it
it's a
got
great
started.
skill to. Yeah, you made a great decision. Did trucking turn out to be what you expected it to be from the first start? You kind of had your expectations. What would you say? Did it change?
You know what? To be honest with you, coming in because a lot of us just dive in first. So we dive in and then we decide to swim later. So I definitely wish a lot of the resources that I know now, um, that I would have known those resources coming in, because you don't really, trucking is one of those things. You come into it And like you said, you get a skill set, but there is so many ways to skin a cat when it comes to transportation and logistics that you will get lost out here if you don't have some type of guidance. So I'm coming somewhere in the middle where you don't know anyone with with a trucking background. So you just come in, you get your license, and you become a company driver, and you don't really know the ins and outs of the industry, whether it be what you're supposed to get paid, you know, um, how to run your clock, just how you're supposed to be safe on the road, maintenance, like how a breakdown stops your money. You're not really thinking about all of that when you go to school. You're not really thinking about like how, what I'm saying, how the pay structure works. And a breakdown, when you're a company driver, although they get the truck back up and running, that takes away from your paycheck, you know. And then
Absolutely.
there's certainly with trucking, there's so many different divisions. So if I had known, that, coming in, you just thinking dry van and refrigerator because that's what you see posted up. Get your license, get your license, get your license in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. But nobody ever tells you, what happens once you get your experience. You don't really have a roadmap. Trucking doesn't provide a roadmap. So I would say that's one thing that I learned, that it doesn't provide a roadmap. You got to get it how you live, and you kind of you're learning as you go. And if you so happen to run across someone like yourself, or uh, Women in Trucking or African American Women Trucking Association, you should be appreciative of those resources because you can't do it by yourself. Just
Yeah,
understanding the ins and outs.
absolutely. I like the way you put that. I mean, we need each other. I mean, AAWTA, the connection that you're able to build with them. How did you first get connected with them?
Honestly, I think a lot of people don't. I don't really. I won't say a lot of people because that's when people listen, that's probably like a vague statement. But honestly, I think maybe 3 years ago, I went to an event. I went to an event, and I think they were there alongside She Trucking, and at the time, I still was kind of new in the industry. So truck drivers, we have big trust issues, because somebody can say something today and it could totally go left tomorrow. So you kind of like you kind of go into the door, but you don't really know what to expect. And then um, years later, I saw that they were having a trucking event in that. I think it's uh, I don't want to say the wrong city, but it was like 30 minutes outside of Atlanta. So I just decided like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna check the event out. And it turned out nice. You get to meet different people and learn just, what they're doing within the community. So that's where I'm at now, just trying to, learn other things about trucking besides being behind the steering wheel. So I like that they have 4 aspects to their community, which, they're, you learn how to drive, they have a back office. And the best part that I like is that they're working with the youth. So, because you don't hear that where organizations are working with the youth and getting them up to speed of what's going on when it comes to transportation and logistics.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, what brought you to get out of your comfort zone and go to those shows? Well, do you
You know,
remember what you
uh,
decided?
you know what? Um, when I initially got my license and I was working for Dot Foods, uh, my first year, you know, that you're probably the first podcast that I'll ever tell the story to. But during my first year with Dot Foods, my truck it caught on fire in the parking lot. It burned all the way to the ground. It had It had all of my things in it. So right after that, I kind of, I didn't know, I was still new. It was my first year. So I kind of was like, what I'm saying? It was totally like unexpected. And from there, my relationship with Dot Foods ended because, like they didn't really take into consideration like your mental space. So I really think like, mental health is a big thing because being new, you had a new driver and your truck just burned from off in the parking lot. I'm just doing what I normally do. I did my pre-trip prior, and I was telling the mechanics, like, hey, I was just telling them I thought something was wrong with the truck. I wasn't 100% sure, but I was like, hey, I think something wrong with the truck. And after the third time, by the time we came to the parking lot, you just heard a big bang, and then my truck and the truck next to it and someone's car, it caught on fire. And from then, I just knew like like something else needed to be done. Like who helps, what I'm saying, when these situations happen. What I'm saying, especially when you're new. Like me, what I'm saying, I went through that little phase, on my own. And then from there, I just, started like a journey based book because when I first started trucking in uh, in 2020, I wasn't going around with my camera and stuff because that wasn't a thing. Like me, I'm kind of old school. So when you with your trainer, and you trying to learn the ins and out. I wasn't, following around with a camera. So everything that I learned, I took notes, and then I end up, completing when I had the time off after the fire. I end up completing my book. So uh, that's what propelled me to, start to try to reach out to other organizations. I didn't even know that they existed. I just started, doing research, and then once you come upon them, you got to reach out. But uh, it's a hard transition because you still got to work, so it's not easy like trying to get out the truck and be at a trucking show or be at an event that's going on. So I just try to do it. I try to do it when I can.
Wow, you and I got a lot in common. I mean, to be able to be an advocate for the industry, to not give up on it, that pain that came from the fire. I mean, you could have done something totally different, but you took that pain and you turned it into power. So I'm really proud of you. That's amazing. Truck fires happen all the time. I mean, that's a common occurrence. And then now you're in the industry, you probably see that more than anything. You just so happen to happen to you.
Yeah, now because actually when I was probably at my third company by then, and I actually was going down. I think I was headed towards maybe like Virginia, and no, I was doing car parts or auto parts from St. Paul, from Joliet to St. Paul, Minnesota, and actually en route one night, I saw someone truck. It caught on fire, but I pulled over. I was team driving at the time, so we pulled over and we actually went to make sure, to try to see if they needed any assistance. Even though the fire was going on, I stopped because I just always will remember, what I'm saying, when my truck caught on fire in the parking lot and there was nobody, what I'm saying, like nobody was there. It was just one person maybe. I think he had came through and he was like, "Hey, is that your truck number such and such?" And then I was like, yeah. And he was like, well, I see a spark coming from up under the hood. And then I went back into the mechanic shop. And that's when we came out. And the only thing the mechanic asked me at that time is, do I have a fire extinguisher? What? Do I have a fire extinguisher? Like it's in the truck. You know what I'm saying, by the way. But when I saw that those two gentlemen, when I, headed towards my route, I saw that their truck was on fire. I actually did stop and try to make sure, like, hey, at least you guys could get everything that's in the truck, but whatever's in there, shit, like let it go. You know what I mean? Ain't nothing you can do about it. And I think that um, I don't know what happened. We just made sure we called 911 and, help them get further away from the truck. But yeah, like now it being, 6 years later, like you said, now you see that it happens often. Break fires, breakdowns. It's the same thing with breakdowns. Breakdowns can be mentally exhausting depending on the period that you go with. You know what I'm saying? So you have to learn that, you really have to do your research when it comes to, um, you have to understand the mega carrier. You have to understand what a medium carrier is, a small carrier, because mega carriers, you have to learn like, hey, with mega carriers, they got a truck that they can put you in just like that. A medium-sized carrier, you might when the truck break down, you might be waiting 1, 2, 3, 4 days. Even smaller carrier, you may be waiting for a long time. So those are things that, like you said, you just learn those things along the way. And sometimes it's that learning curve. It's such a long learning curve that you can see why the trucking industry is like the stock market. Because some of us, while you're learning, you're losing money. And then some people, as they're learning, they're making money. So it just depends on what side of the coin you're on. But it definitely can be exhausting,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I experience breakdown sometimes weekly, and
Mhm.
yeah, it's exhausting. Sometimes I remember one time I had to switch truck 4 times. Yeah, and the mechanic was like, "What's the big deal?" But you're moving the bed in and out. I mean, you're sweating. There's no
That
shower
right
right there.
there,
I mean,
yeah,
it's
that those things, you're so right. Like those little intricate details that no one takes into consideration, and maybe like for some people, like hey, they may be accustomed to, they may not care that the truck just broke down, back to back, back to back. But you do actually have some people like, hey, like yo, I just made my bed, now I gotta take my bed apart again, move all this stuff over here. You don't know what that truck looked like over there because people, when it comes to tightness, when you slip seat, man, these trucks be looking, they some of them be horrible. You know what I mean? You be like, yes, I want another truck, but you be like, is it clean? That's the first thing you want to know. And half the time they don't know if it's clean. They just have to, you know, get you another truck.
yeah,
That's
yeah. I think when I empty out the truck, I look back at the truck I was in. I'm like, oh my goodness, because I got the truck before somebody else got the truck.
yeah. Sometimes you're like, yo, I just could have kept that one. You know what? Put some tape around it and let me keep going. Like once you get a truck and a trailer, you you kind of be like, yo, I'm just gonna hold on to this one.
Yeah,
You know, 'cause-
sometimes the new truck looks worse than the old truck.
yeah, exactly.
Oh man, so yeah, that's amazing that you had that experience and you can speak on it because a lot of people don't know about that. They think, hey, you get another truck just like that. That's amazing. But there's little small intricate things. I remember the one dispatcher that we were talking to said, just take what you need. And I'm like, what do you mean? Just take what I need? That's
Everything. Like, I need everything. You know what I mean?
uh, or you're gonna leave it behind for someone to take it, and then they'll be
Right.
like, well, why'd you leave it in there?
And
Uh,
I think I think another thing that I would touch on is when it just comes to the rules of the road, right? Now, granted, a lot of truck drivers they don't understand. Like when you're new, you're just new. You don't know what you don't know, right? So I could, they can tell me to take a load from here to New Mexico, but if I just got out of school and you tell me to take a load from here to New Mexico, my journey is going to be a little different than someone who's been running the roads. Like sometimes uh, blind leading the blind is not good. When they just want a body in the seat. So
hmm,
I mean, for me, I just feel like there's a you know there's a gap between um, having a body in the seat and someone coming out of school and getting some real experience behind the wheel before they could take solo trips. Because even though everybody can drive, we all can drive forward, and we all can back it in. But when it comes to like just taking a trip, taking a solo trip, and you only got 90 days in, uh, that can be draining because if I've never left my state and now you're telling me if if I'm born and raised in Chicago, and now you telling me, hey, by the way, your first loadout is going to be California, and then I get out there and make a mistake. The industry acts like that's a normal thing, and and it shouldn't be normal. Like, this is a kid, this is a young person, whether young, middle age or older. If they've never been out their state, and you're saying, hey, mm, go ahead, take this load to California, but then something happens, us as a driver, we're being looked at. But hey, I have not even drove around in my city. But as soon as I'm out of school, I should be excited about going all the way to California. Great. A lot of people, they want to see the road. They want to, they be like, oh, there's a good way for me to travel. But trucking, you know what I'm saying? You can travel all you want to, but there's rules and regulations. There's things that can happen on the road that you don't know about. So, just trying to figure out a way where they could close that gap a little bit, and maybe, you know, um, have drivers wherever you get your license at, drive around in those areas, like maybe regional, instead of just always like soon as that body's in the seat, you know what, you can go all the way to the top of the map because you never even left your state. But the industry is the industry. They probably feel like if it ain't broke, saying why fix it? But that's why they need advocates. That's why they need advocates out here because uh, if I can teach you, survival, that's a thing. Like, hey, like, you survived it. So since you survived it, you should be okay. But we should look at it like, yeah, I survived it, but how about we try to fix some things so that they won't have to go. We already went through the fire, and got burned. But how about we figure out some ways so they won't get burned as bad? That's how I feel. If we're gonna be, when it comes to being an advocate for the industry. Yes, we went through the fire and me and you are fine, but how about we come together and try to figure out something where, yeah, they're gonna go through the fire, but maybe it'll burn a little less, if that makes sense. I you know I I don't know, Ray. Like, you tell me.
Yeah, it's something. I mean, you get into an industry, such a weird industry. You get your CDL, and then you got to fight to keep your CDL. You know,
Yeah,
how many obstacles come up where that you could be done first week. There's a lot of obstacles that come up that people don't realize, and then you don't realize how much you had right there in your pocket. And CDL's worth is, so I remember when I went to school, they told me it's worth $1 million, and I was like, what?
yeah,
It's value that it holds, not actually getting that cash, but the things in the door, the doors that it opens for you, the opportunities that you're able to get, the life changing things that's sitting in your lap. And I didn't know that. If a young person could start out in their 20s and set
yeah,
halfway for themselves versus now I got a family, I got 4 kids, and I'm trying to do it. And if you can
yeah,
do it when you're younger, the chances of you making is so much better. I mean, go to these truck shows, you see a lot of young people, the young ones.
yeah,
It's so nice to see those guys out there. But a lot of them get started when they're 16, on the farm somewhere. And like I said, maybe you and we didn't get that start.
yeah,
So best thing we can do is try to group together and
yeah,
help each other out
yeah,
like you're doing.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
I totally agree. Like that, and like you said, that's it. I think that's the main thing. Just wanting to help those that come behind you. Just after you been through a few things on the road. You said like you know I don't profess to be an expert, but I do believe that once you're behind the wheel, once you've accomplished the goal of getting your actual commercial license, no one can take that away from you. But journey-based experience that's real. We don't profess to be an expert, but I can tell you how my journey went, and you tell me how your journey went, and the person can take something from that journey and be like, okay, well then I know not to do that. But I don't like when they try to make it seem like you or I, we're trying to be an expert. It's not that. It's just like, hey, like, these are real life stories, that happen, and maybe they didn't happen to you, but you actually have people who, things happen to. Everybody's journey is not the same. So we just take bits and pieces. We just want to take bits and pieces from our journey, spread the word, and then maybe it'll land on the ears it need to land on, because everything isn't for everybody. you know.
Yeah, be willing to share. We don't need to gatekeep and hoard it. I mean, so tell me, what is and you got a book. I mean, tell me what does it mean when you with AAWTA, what does it mean for you personally?
When it comes to their organization,
Mm-hmm.
uh, well, for one, just coming in, being a woman and coming into the industry, you know, that's seeing them, that wasn't the face. Those wasn't the faces I saw when I was in school. Nothing against you, Mr. Ray, but the industry is it's a male dominated industry. So
Yeah.
I was, you're actually happy to run into, other women who's actually drove or they have some, expertise when it comes to just trucking logistics um, all together. So I was actually, I'd be actually excited to hear and see that, you know. And just as for it's just for men and women of color, if I would have met someone like you in school, maybe the route or the journey would probably look different, because like you said, when you band together, it creates better results.
Do you think
So
it was you think a lot of young ones, a lot of people that want to get in trucking, maybe they're afraid, maybe when they hear things like this, they don't think they can actually do it. What would you say?
that I do, because I will say that I think that is the case, because when I first started just trying to go back to schools and just asking them like, hey, do you guys let just like how recruiters come into schools? I feel like a recruiter, they can come into the school and they can tell us X, Y, and Z. But how about getting drivers in here so they can tell them, like a like pre, like before you actually get your license, hey, this is what could possibly happen. It may not happen, but this is what happened. And I think that they feel like we might deter them from getting their license. But how I look at it is, once you're enrolled at the school or you come to a company, once you're there, you're there. They've already made the executive decision that they're going to get their license. You and me, we can't we can't change that. You know what I'm saying? They're going to get their license regardless. But just like they have recruiters, like a recruiter can come in here, come into the school, they can tell you, how much you're going to make, how great the company is. Why can't us drivers be allowed to come into the school and let them know, like, hey, you may choose this company right here, but one, two, three, this may happen, you know, how pay structure works, because a lot of times coming into the industry, you don't even know how, you don't know how pay structure works when it comes to, you got CPM, but then you have you drop down to an hourly rate when there's a breakdown, you know. And an hourly rate, it's like Burger King and McDonald's money, when you have a breakdown. Or if you touch freight, you get paid per piece. You don't get paid the same way that a driver would get if he's just driving solid miles. So there's
Yeah.
just different things that, if I came into the industry and I don't know anyone who's driven a truck or who's owned a truck, you know, the pay structure is one of the biggest things. Like, if I tell you right now I make 50 cents a mile, the next truck driver, he or she's gonna say they make 51 cents. The next person gonna say they make 52 cents, because everybody wants to top this person. And there's no line. So it's just, industry, like you said, the industry, this is a delicate industry. You look at the industry and you like, man, like you just want to, make some type of changes. Maybe, um, it won't happen overnight, but you just want to see some change.
And I think Otta's doing a great job with that. I mean, the community that they're building, being able to talk with people like yourself. Have you personally seen women gain confidence and opportunities through the organization?
Yeah, uh, yeah, I have. Because they not only they have they give you all four parts of the industry. So you you can get your CDL. within their organization. They do dispatching. They also, provide uh, resources when if you want to do back office work. Um, they have a variety of things. You actually would have to go to AAWTA um, .org, and everything that they offer is listed. Because I can probably go for hours about their organization, but they do, for me, in my opinion, they have a lot to offer, um, especially when it just comes to, like you said, banding together as women in trucking, men in trucking, youth. Um, they're a great organization.
Yeah. I mean, just being willing to work isn't enough. I mean, it's a start. I think it's a great start. But yet, that community is what going to spur you forward. It's going to push you in the direction that you need to go instead of you running off into the weeds. What challenges do you think, when it comes to mentorship and the challenges that you see out there for African American women, especially when facing in trucking, that people may overlook?
I think they may overlook mental health, because a lot of people drive, but like you said, if you ask anyone, um, because I think that there's a such thing as like driver fatigue or and backing fatigue. Like just little things that they, like, and within our community as well, that we don't like to speak on. Like no one really likes to talk about if they're battling with mental health, or if they, what I'm saying, if they're struggling to understand uh, how to transition to another trucking job, if they should, um, when it comes to endorsements, you know, coming right out of school, like, should I get all my endorsements now or should I wait? Me, I'm gonna say, if I had to do it all over again, I would get all my endorsements. I would get all the experience I can in the first 1 to 3 years, and then try to transition over into maybe like a hourly paying job. I would try to learn just different, just make sure you learn different divisions so you won't be stuck. But I think that their organization, because because of the partnerships they created, um, if you're just getting into the industry, they definitely have a lot of resources that will propel you forward. Something that probably you and I didn't see coming in.
Yeah, I'm still looking. I'm still got hurdles I trip over. I'm supposed to jump, but then flat face. I got to get up and dust my stuff off and keep going. Like I said, when I'm out there and you get those breakdowns and you got a podcast where people need answers to questions, and or you got your family you're still trying to take care of and be there for
Mhm.
them even though you're not home. And like you said, mental health. We all come from different families, different backgrounds. Who knows why we have certain struggles more than others, or some
Right.
have less, but then they lack, they struggle with that empathy. Some people have trouble with that. They can't really understand what it's like to be someone else. So, I mean, that's a struggle too. So yeah, it's important, bringing awareness like you're doing. I mean, I think that's great. Mentorship, helping women. When you guys are out there, we see you. We see that you guys putting forth the effort when we pass or when we're parking, and we're just like, hey, that's a girl. She's doing it, man. Look at that. And a lot of times too, they look happy. So I mean, it's not like a miserable job, and like they're so
Mhm.
miserable there. I mean, there's a lot of joy that comes with trucking when you're out there on the road. Accomplishment that you're able to get done. What would you say is one of the things, the biggest joys you receive when you are in the industry, driving, not only just advocating, but what did you like about it?
You know what? Actually, um, this past year, or I would say for the year of 2025, when I worked at rail transportation as a driver trainer or instructor, orientation instructor, and one of the greatest joys was, the biggest thing is when you see them, you know, pass the CDL. Um, when they do their backing maneuvers and they go out on the road and they do their pre-trip. And for me, if if in 2020 someone would have told me in 2025 I would actually be taking students with little to no experience and entrusting them to drive me around, I probably would have said, no, it's not happening. For me, just coming into trucking, to actually do it and execute it, that was big for me. And training, not a lot of women came through Rail, so I always pretty much had male students. So that's a challenge because it takes a lot to actually get a male to buy into what you're saying, because it's easy, when it's another male and they say, hey, I need you to turn right, I need you to turn left, I need you to stop here, I need you to go there. But when we're training them, it's a little different, So me, uh, that was one of my greatest uh, great moments. 2025, just being an instructor and just learning that aspect of the industry, And for anyone that is an instructor or becoming an instructor, I do feel like you have to be around experienced instructors to learn, because you can't just get out here um, and teach someone, the pre-trip or backing or driving without being able to be mentored yourself.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that is great. I mean, helping people be safe, helping people have survival skills out there on the road, helping them understand, hey, this is an area where you need to pay attention. We
Right.
need you to focus, and when they actually get that done and you see the follow through, I
Yeah,
think that is a great reward. I can totally understand where you're coming from. So,
yeah.
man, so safety out there on the road as a female driver, I mean, what are some of the things that you do to stay safe out there on the road?
One thing I do, well, one thing I always continue to do is I'm not um, big on once it's nighttime and you're at a truck stop or at a resting area. I don't really, I don't really park too far, or even if I probably wouldn't even get out the truck because it's dark, you know. Um, so for for me, just just being a woman, um, you try to just make sure, just be aware of your surroundings. I mean, because we all have to, go to the bathroom and use the shower, get something to eat. All those things are very important. But to me, you just got to be aware of your surroundings. Know where you're going, know where you're going to stop, know what time you're going to stop, and just uh, if communication is key.
Who do you
Um,
communicate with?
just make sure you communicate with family. Uh,
Okay.
Definitely.
Other driver?
Yeah, or another driver. Me, I know, like if I know I'm gonna stop and I'm going into a location, I try to make sure I'm on the phone. So that way at least they know who I was on the phone with last, or that person could be like, well, I know that they were here, you know. So
Yeah.
me, I'm always on the phone with my sister. So
Oh,
especially
nice.
if I'm doing solo trips. So my sister is, number one, I'm going to be on the phone with her. She don't know where I'm at all times. And I know they say, family members, they're going to always say like, uh, when at nighttime, stay in your truck. But you know as well as I know, our shift may start at nighttime, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so you just got to have some type of protection, you know, uh, at all times, you
Yeah,
know.
make sure you have good light, not just this dim little cell phone light. Yeah, and you wanna make sure you do your pre-trip and everything. It's kinda hard to see everything at night. They say, "Oh, you're supposed to do your pre-trip," but, it's dark out, so,
It's
I mean, you're gonna you're not gonna be able to scan the truck and, like a computer, but you're gonna try your best. But yeah, I mean, nighttime driving is something else. It's a different breed. You out there too long, you start seeing, Bigfoot.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it was just me. I'm happy you said that. You'd be like, "What is that in the road?" And it actually really, it's nothing. It's just that's a part of the night. night driving,
Yeah.
nocturnal animals, you know.
A lot of people still walking at night on on the freeway. And you're out there driving.
That's weird too. And you be like, yo, like how does this happen? Or where are they going? That's what I be wondering.
Yeah, they have a little thank you bag from the maybe from a gas station or something. I was like, what?
Um, but
Uh,
I would say to try to have like well lit if you're gonna be out at nighttime, like well lit clothing. You know that so that whomever they'll be able to see you. But
mhm,
um
nice.
I just said on your podcast, but just make sure you have some type of protection. You know,
Hmm.
I
You got
don't know
something
what
to check the
I don't
tires.
know
Yeah, you got to have something to thump those tires with, right?
what dump the tires with. You got to have some. You may have to cut tape. So you might have to want to have something where you're able to uh, cut your food open, cut some tape. You know, things of that
Yeah,
nature. you know.
yeah. They sell them at the truck stops, so
Yeah.
it's the reason why they're there. So to bring awareness and to be, preparedness. I mean, how is important is awareness for around human trafficking at truck stops and rest areas? Let's touch on that to hear from you.
Oh man, that is big. That is big to me. When it comes to just being aware or any type of human trafficking. Now, I don't know the numbers, so I can't speak on numbers. But I do know like if you are in a situation, just for me, it's like look like don't talk to strangers. Always try to just keep it moving. I don't mind if I'm inside of a truck stop and someone approaches me, and that's cool. But when it comes to they want to come look at their truck or uh, like hey, I got this over here. You know, just be mindful. You know, don't
Yeah,
don't fall for it. Don't fall for it.
yeah. What's that saying? No good deed goes unpunished. Sometimes you got to be careful out there.
Yeah, you gotta be careful. You know, you just have to be careful. Always just like awareness is a big thing. And if someone's being a weirdo. You know, so
Call them out. Call them out. Yeah,
stay on your p's and q's, especially if you're going into an area that you have no idea about. I mean, I know for me, I know it's going to be seen funny, but I remember when I first started driving, I had never been to Oklahoma. You know what I mean? So that goes back to me saying like when if you haven't been driving, and you're going to, say Delaware or Oklahoma. You're not even familiar. You're not even familiar with whatever go on in Oklahoma or Delaware. So you just have to be mindful, of your surroundings. Try to stop, where not no mom and pop's truck stop. You might want to, make sure you're going to um, somewhere where it's universal, where everybody may stop there. You don't do the mom and pops until you learned your way around a
yeah,
little bit. You know, so like you said, you always have to be careful um, when it comes to being on the road and just being aware of your surroundings. That's a big thing.
yeah. I mean, you got to go to the bathroom, and that exit just seems like it's just so far away. You see it on the GPS, and you're like, where is that thing? And then you show up, and it's just, what is this place? Yeah, it's hard.
I
Yeah,
mean, for us, we have to create. What I'm saying especially after COVID. You create your own restroom and create your own restroom in a truck because that's another thing. Uh, when it comes to hygiene, you create your own restroom and a toilet. So I know for me, that's how it worked out for me. That keeps me from having to go into truck stops sometimes late at night. And I always, um, once you get your money up, you can uh, prepare your lunch. You don't always have to stop at a truck stop and get food. Have sandwich, chips, some type of snacks with you. So just in case you're in the area where it doesn't look too good, you don't have to get out that truck. Or, try to get as close to the consignee as you can. That's kind of like a win. And like you said, just make sure you're in a well lit area. You know,
Nice.
don't try to be don't try to be soldier girl and soldier boy and just be like, what, I'm just gonna get out there anyway.
Yeah.
No, make sure you're in a well lit area. And that's not gonna happen, like you said, it's not gonna happen. There's so many shippers and receivers. It's not gonna happen all the time. But if there's a time that you can take, what I'm saying, that you can be more proactive than reactive, then do so.
Yeah, sometimes you step outside the truck and step into an ant farm, whatever. Or you gotta watch out for rattlesnakes sometimes in these desert
Exactly.
areas. Yeah,
Uh,
so even just the wildlife, you need to be
mhm.
careful, be alert. So
So
great job.
you have extra gloves, extra shoes, extra you know extra safety wear, extra boots. I carry like 3, 4, 5 pair of tennis shoes, probably 2, 3 pair of boots, and some rain boots, rain gear. All those things are important because it's definitely needed. Like you said, you could step out and you might step into something you know that you don't want to step in.
That too. Wow. Yeah, I totally know what you mean there. I mean, the side of the road could be a lot of surprises. So when it comes to weather and you got the equipment, I mean, what's the worst weather situation that you remember when you're out there driving, when you're trying to get the job done?
All of us, snow,
Oh,
snow,
that's the one.
snow. No, that
Mine
is.
is ice. It's so hard, man. You got to be able to try to see when the moisture is not moving. You know it's freezing.
Yeah, snow and ice. That's the biggest thing. And you know what? I guess for me, I guess just as a driver, what I still can't understand is what makes drivers push it, push to the limit. Where you don't tell yourself, what, maybe for the night, I'll just stop here and then I'll see what tomorrow instead of risking life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Uh, if you you know if you're in a situation where like you have to stop, don't feel like you're being a punk because you decide, what, I don't feel safe. It is okay to not be okay. If you feel like, I need to stop for the night and I'll finish this up in the morning, don't be afraid to, let your dispatcher know or whomever you're communicating with. Like, hey, I'm going to stop here for the night. I don't feel safe. Safety should always be first and foremost. Your life is more valuable than a load. And I don't know how many more truck drivers can tell someone like your life is way more valuable than a load. The load is going to get there. It'll get figured out. It will get figured out, especially when it comes to inclement weather. Now we all can drive when the sun is out and it's a very great day. But when it comes to anything that's gonna, when you have to risk your life, look, I'm not a super trucker. So for me, you can call me whatever, steering wheel holder, whatever. When it comes to my safety, I'm stopping the truck. I don't, you know.
That's awesome. Yeah, you definitely going to advocate for safety because is it when you see someone's family and or you see the post
Mhm.
where someone's lost their life or their loved one. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not worth. We don't know what happened in those situations, but we definitely don't want it to be a decision that we made or put upon ourselves to put ourselves in an unsafe situation. So, great job for advocating for that. Thank you. Also, health and wellness, self care. I mean, you touched on that. You touched on hygiene. Set up something right there where you don't have to go far. What about rest and recovery? I mean, that's huge. Trying to. Some days I don't even know what day it is. I'm like, just like, man, oh wait, it's in the. I thought it was because the gray skies. Sometimes it looks like it's the morning. Yeah.
Well, what? When we all first got our license, I think we all are taught to, drive like a maniac. Then you start. you start understanding what a reset really means. Like reset your mind. That 34-hour reset is very important. That 10-hour reset is very important, and eating healthy is uh, another importance. Um, when it just comes to rest, me now that like I've been driving a little bit, I would say the first 2 years I did, I was one of those that I was all about the miles until I understood, like your body, like the load is gonna get there, or you just learn the game, so to speak. Um, so take advantage of your 10-hour break, take advantage of your 34-hour reset. You don't always have to take advantage of it, but your body will let you know when you need to rest.
All right.
I'm a
Well,
I'm a advocate for
yeah.
resting.
What's some real talk? What can drivers do to save money while they're out there on the road? How about that one?
Oh man, not buy truck stop food, not not to buy junk. That's the first thing. Just being mindful of if you already have crazy spending habits. Um,
That's me.
for for me, when it comes to saving money, like for us, maybe they could open up a 401k, you know, Roth IRA, and just maybe start off small, and then as your debt or whatever begins to decline, you can put more money in it. Maybe I think I haven't done it myself, but like the savings accounts that have a higher yield to it than your traditional savings.
It goes by fast. You get into the industry and you're making good money and you're trying to get caught up because that's why you got into trucking financially. And then all of a sudden 5, 10 years go by and you are like, man, I could have been putting some more away. So maybe,
Yeah,
80% of what you will go to getting you caught up and leave the 20% for saving. And then eventually you'll be doing 20% on getting caught up and 80% on saving. It's
yeah.
hard. It is so hard nowadays. I mean,
It is hard. It is hard, but like you said, the first thing is discipline. So I know for me, I started just trying to, buy less when it comes to just being on the road in general. But I think having the time off when you're not on the road, like the for 2025, let's for example, being an instructor. I wasn't on the road, so I wasn't buying as much as I would if I was driving here and driving there. So I think like the first thing is just like discipline. It's the same as like when we say like we want to start working out. Most of the time we say it, but we don't do it. We'll say, like you said, I'm gonna save 10% of what I make, but as soon as we see something that we want, we just do it. So I think it just starts with discipline. That's the first thing, and just um, figuring out like actually where your money, who and where your money is going to. I, I, I had to learn that, like understanding, like where each dollar is going. Because sometimes we just have a tendency to just swipe or just hand over money. So having the idea exactly where your money is going at all times. It takes time, but it does help in the long run.
they keep making it easier for you to spend. Now you can just tap your phone. Um, it's gone.
Now you
Uh,
your phone, you can just tap away, but uh, people have to be mindful.
yeah. So, man, so honest pros and cons. What are some pros and cons of trucking people should honestly know before they're joining the industry to get their mindset right? Maybe get familiar with trucks more so, or maybe it's what kind of person are you? Are you mechanically inclined? What would you say?
I would say pros with trucking is, when you do go to school, you're always going to come out with a skill set. Like I said earlier, once you get your license, can only you or whatever situation they have to, what caused you to lose your lose your license. Like you said, if when it comes to monetary, trucking can be a it can be a life it can be life changing for not just you or me, for a lot of people. That's a pro in trucking. Trucking is that well, I'm learning that trucking is the only industry where you can get into this industry and in 6 months you probably, if you play your cards right, can can make make six figures depending on
Mm.
who and what because trucking is real knowledge based. Like you come into the industry one way
I have
and
zero student loan debt.
yeah. So that's a pro. Like I said, provides a skill set. You can make a career out of trucking, and when it comes to uh, money, you know, it's a you know it's a big industry. It's a lot of money when it comes to transportation and logistics. So
A lot of money to
mo-
go around.
uh, cons cons when it comes to trucking. Uh, It's gonna always be, like you said, when it comes to if you're not mechanically inclined, uh, misinformed information. Maybe when it comes to uh, how often, when it comes to learning your equipment. Um, Another con I would say is um, how fast you can get your license. You can
Mm.
get it in you can get it in 3 to 6 weeks, but that doesn't mean that you know what you that doesn't mean that that you conquered the industry. Is trucking is definitely you learn something new every single day, whether you're driving or you decide to do the back office part of it. Um, so for me, yeah, cons is just you just want to get around more individuals who know more than you do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I like that. So, man, so real talks, maybe just some story time. If you're a woman out there watching and you're thinking about joining trucking, what would you tell her? Maybe she's a little hesitant.
Uh, for what I would tell her is if you're going is first do due diligence. All you always want to research whatever the first 3 or 5 companies you have in mind. Um, if I had to do it all over again, I would go where the company is all inclusive, like a rail transport. I would probably go with rail transport because one, um, they have their own school, and then you're trained for rail, and then from there it sends you to the DMV. You get your license. So everything is from point A to point B. You go to school with them, you get your license through them, and then you get your training through them. Um, if that was not an option, then I would choose a third party school, but I would make sure I do my research on what third party school I would go to because you want to make sure that everybody is um, because everybody in the industry is not on the same page. So you always want to make sure they're a safe industry and that, they promote women in trucking. Because believe it or not, there's still companies out here that, you know, they're not looking to have a woman, in their organization. So you just want to make sure first thing is always due diligence and there's room for all of us in the industry, and tap into just different. I wish I would have tapped into different divisions. So just and have your endorsements. So if I was speaking to a female today, I would say get on top of your endorsements and just try to learn the industry a little bit. before you just hop in there and then say like, oh, I want to get my own truck, or I want to do this, I want to do that. You
Yeah, I wish I could have my own show truck. That'd be my dream. But
know.
that's a lot of work. It's not just driving up and parking it. They're really out there shining it, making sure that they win some type of prize for all the hard work they put in. So,
Yeah,
no, that's really good advice. And then also too, like yourself, you can be an advocate. You don't have to keep your stories to yourself. You can share them with people. You can be vulnerable. I appreciate you sharing that too about the fire.
yeah,
Because you could hold back and be like, "Yeah, I don't wanna share that," but you did, and somebody out there is gonna feel much better hearing that, knowing that they're not
so
alone.
yeah, I hope so.
But
I hope it helps someone. You know, hope it
you
doesn't
helped
fall
me.
on deaf ears.
Yeah, you helped me when I'm back there sleeping. I do the team driving, and, you hope that somebody will wake you up. You don't wanna be in the truck locked in there, so, yeah, a lot of scary things can happen, and it's not even your fault, you're sleeping in there.
That's true.
Oh, man, and then all your stuff. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, you gotta try to people understand a house fire, they get a GoFundMe and everything, but a truck fire, it's just
Yeah.
like, "What? You just had some Kleenex in there, right?" Like, "What?"
And then had my clothes, shoes, headset, cell phone, all type of thing, all the duffel bag, and all type of stuff was in there. You know, your
Don't bring
refrigerator.
it, then they're like, "Oh, you're not professional. You didn't have enough stuff with you."
Yeah, I had my mallet in there. I still miss it.
Yeah, yeah, you lose a good mallet, man, or a hammer, it can be a
Mhm.
downer. Yeah, because they become
Yeah,
like your friend. Those good tools to stay with you, and then all of a sudden you leave it somewhere, ruin the
yeah.
whole week. Yeah. Oh man, it's a pleasure talking with you. I really appreciate you coming on the show. I don't want to take too much of your time here. You taking this time out from your loved ones and yourself to come on here to help other people, man. That is something to be
Um,
celebrated in itself. So I appreciate you being the soldier you are. Not the bad soldier, but the good soldier we need. Yeah. So yeah. So yeah, anything you want to share before we go? You shared a lot of information. I really appreciate you doing this, especially for AAWTA. I mean, they are amazing. Maybe let them know too when you go back and speak with them that we're very appreciative of you coming on the show and the referral they gave.
um, one thing I would like to share is since I'm one of those that I really do intend to give back to the industry. So um, when I told you earlier about the book and T-shirt, the actual T-shirt that I have on is
Oh,
um,
nice! Wow. All right.
it is like one of like an official club member um, T-shirt. So if you see the official, and then you have the tire tread and the A, um,
Uh,
those um, hopefully um, I can start getting people to buy into the product so that a proceed of um, the profit can go towards helping someone get their commercial license. Because I know when I first got my commercial license, even though I went through workforce opportunity innovation, um, they helped me get my CDL. For those that who probably can't get a grant, you know, anything that's bought, part of the profit will go towards helping someone get a CDL. So for right now, we do have graduation bundles. And what I mean by graduation bundles is when I was in CDL school, when you're done getting your license, they give you a certificate. So I said, instead of them just being given a certificate, how about you give them a T-shirt that make them feel like they're a member of something. Like, hey, I just got my license, so I'm an official club member. So that's where the official came in. And then the collage T-shirt, it just has uh, your different trucking brands as the collage, and then you have the book. If they,
there it is.
if they, and that's the book from Valerie Hart. You know, um,
One more time. What
they
is it
can go
called?
to
For those that
the
can't
basic.
see.
Yeah, the basics and the blues, and introduction to CDL driving. Valerie, that's my middle name. So my name is Claudette Valerie Hart. That's Valerie is my middle name. Um, and it's just a journey based book. So it just gives snippets of my journey. It also has words of encouragement. Um, we got a crossword puzzle probably somewhere here in the back. We got a crossword puzzle in the back. Uh, Trucking terminology, and just like I said, snippets of my journey. So it's a journey based book. You can either get it with the hat, or these t-shirts are in the works. So um, that's something that I am working on. So I'm hoping to get that into motion. Um,
It's
and
perfect.
that's it when it comes to what I would like to do with the community. As far as with African American women trucking, like I said, that organization is ongoing. I think it's a very good organization when it comes to just resources and providing opportunities for women within the community, especially if you don't want to do, if you don't want to drive and you want to learn about the back office, if you might have a young teenage son, young daughter who is interested in becoming a driver or interested in learning dispatching, uh, freight brokering, they have it all, you know. So, um, like you said, uh, if anyone is out there, make sure you go and check that organization out. They have a lot to offer, um, and you can learn a lot.
Nice. Big ups to Ada. Thank you so much for being on the show. I love the merch. I love the book. The hat's amazing. It really catches your eye. So yeah, keep going with that. Don't stop. I mean, that's a lot of reason why I go with trucking Ray, because trucking ain't easy. When you get out there, you're trucking. You keep trying to go, and that's what I like to do all day. Just keep going. And when you start slowing down, man, that's when they start throwing dirt on you. So keep going out there. Yeah, so that's awesome. And the encouragement that you're giving a lot of African American women, Black women, young ones, even if you're a late starter like myself, um, don't stop. Try something different. If something's not working, change it up. Hey, trucking's here. So that's
Oh,
amazing.
I was a late starter too. I was a late starter. I don't want to go with my age, but I was a late starter. I wish I had started trucking in my early 20s.
That would
Yeah.
have been amazing. So, I think this conversation is, what a lot of people need. It's going to be important because people out there need real talk. They need real experiences, and you took the time to share that and break it down for them instead of speeding through it. And they're kind of wondering what it is that they're really saying. I think you got it right to the point where they can see that this is something that's possible. And you're showing the importance of the community, the
Yeah.
organization like ATA. I can't say it enough. Thank you so much. And hopefully, this episode encourages more women to step up to the industry and build confidence and understand that there's support out there available for them along the way. So, a big shout out to you, Claudette. Appreciate it for joining me today.
Thank you. All right. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Take care. And that's delivered.
All right.